Oh man, what's really good, family tree? Thank you again for tuning in to another Titans TV special exclusive. Happy New Year to everybody who's tuned in today. And for those of you guys as well who celebrate Christmas, happy Christmas as well. Why am I saying happy Christmas? Because today, January the 7th, is the Abyssinian and the Oriental Orthodox Christians celebration of Christmas. So, yeah, salute to everybody out there celebrating Christmas and who are part of that tradition as well. Yeah, buddy. So, anyways, family tree, just giving you guys a quick update with what's going on. This is going to be the very first show of the New Year's. I'm so glad to have you guys here. And today we're starting off with an absolute banger. We did a presentation on Chronic Endgame plus Lloyd D. Young's channel, and we're literally going to be following up and doing the same presentation here for you guys who didn't get to catch that on those channels. So here we go. Family, again, please just drop some comments in the comment section, because this is going to be a very speedy, quick show. We're just going to get through all of this information as fast as possible. So for those of you guys who don't know, we've been doing a series called The Abyssinian Origins of Islam, and today's show is the Abyssinian origin of Abraha and Muhammad. And we're going to be delving specifically into CIH 541 inscription to draw out some context. Okay. So, for those of you guys who are new or don't know and just need a little bit recapping, I've put out several videos on my own personal thesis of Muhammad. It goes like this: that there was an actual historical person by the name of Muhammad, that the legendary Muhammad of the Islamic traditions narrative was based on. The apparent split between the historical and the traditional Muhammad was caused by the numerous vying political parties and propagandists inventing, fabricating, and suppressing stories and reports to further their own agendas. Okay. We'll go into that in a little bit as well. And then the second thesis, which is like hand in hand, they go in with each other, that the narrative of the legendary Abyssinian king, known as the Negus or the Najashi, that supported Muhammad was based on the historical Abyssinian king Abraha, who supported the historical Muhammad. The Umayyads suppressed and obscured the historical Abyssinian king's identity and narrative to further their own political agenda. Sad times. Ibn Ishaq further solidified the obscurity and demonization by inventing the mythos that Muhammad was born in the year of the elephant, causing a chronological paradox. What do I mean by that? Simply put, is that everything was based with inside of the 6th century, mid 6th century to late 6th century. But unfortunately, historians, Islamic historians, they didn't understand time frames. They didn't have a idea of chronology of when these things happened and took place. So they model up certain stories and created a chronological paradox. We've done several shows on that to kind of show you guys how, the dating of, let's just say, something simple as, when was Muhammad born? There is literally a 100-year gap. Yeah, from the Islamic narratives of like, was he born here or was he born there? There's 100 years it's within 100-year period. That's when he was born. That is what they say. So it's like, when we get into history, I always say history is mainly about two things. It's about chronology, i.e., time frame, and geography, space and time. Space and time. Those are the two things we're working with. And more time, when it comes to the Islamic narratives, the space and time is not the correct space and time. And we as historians have to go into that and revise that information and bring it up to speed. So, I usually, when I go into the channels and I do my presentations, I always, we always start off with, especially during Christmas time now, we always start off talking about what does Muhammad and Santa Claus have in common, apart from them being legendary figures that flew on mystical beasts across the heavens? Like, what is it that they have in common? And I put forward that the Saint Nicholas or Santa Claus is birthed out of the historical figure of the 4th century, a Christian bishop by the name of Saint Nicholas from the Byzantine Empire, whereas Muhammad was a 6th century Christian bishop from Abyssinia, and so too was named Saint Muhammad. Okay, so that's usually what we discuss. We usually go through all of that information and we get into some details. We go into hadiths, we break things down, we get people up to speed. And this year, yeah, 2026, I am not going to be doing that as much. I'm not going to be getting people up to speed. I already know that this information is only for a small, I'm saying like a minuscule number of people. I know I can create content that is for the masses and I can be very provocative and, do what we normally do on Titans TV is to provoke people to think. But for now, I just want to really speak with the select few that are really into knowledge and information, are really into reading and learning, and really into history, because those are the type of people that I actually want to connect with right now, because there is going to be an absolute boom in the future where this information is going to be very much so needed. And I need the select few that are already academically minded to pick up this information, because this is going to explode in the upcoming years, because it can't be held back any longer. They've been suppressing or neglecting this information, but now it's it's going to be crazy. So you guys, I already say, you guys are going to be the first to know this information, right? So anyways, we have the channel called Abyssinian Origin, and we also have a website called Abyssinian Origin of Islam that will be writing a lot of articles, blogs, and doing short form videos where you can get bite-sized chunk of information to digest. Yes, for the elite scholars within inside of the community. So number one, the objectives of Abyssinian Origin is to unpack the Abyssinian Arabian context of the Quran, and unpack the Abyssinian Arabian context of Muhammad's life, and presents scholarly works on the 6th century Aksum, Himyar, and Habesha rule. So the main thing is to just unpack, really unpack Abyssinian Arabia. That's the main goal of it all. And most people are going to be like, Abyssinian Arabia? What do you mean, mate? I don't get that. Okay. I will get to that. Actually, the next slide, we'll get to that, because fortunately for me, right, I speak a lot and I talk about stuff, and I think it's the color of my skin personally, and I'm not doing no victimization and woe is me, it's the color of my skin. No, I do it as the color of my skin, where people who tend to look like me complexion wise, they have issues. Why? Because they see things such as this brown skin, dark skin imagery, and they get triggered. They get triggered a lot, and they're like, no, I can't accept it. I can't accept it. I can't. What do you mean Muhammad is black? What do you mean that Arabs were ruled by Ethiopians? What do you mean? You're just trying to blackify things. You're just trying to do we was kings things, whatever they're saying. So it's like, those are the people that have the issue. Like, people like everybody, like my European American friends, like they don't have no problem with this stuff. I just see mainly with certain black people. I'm like, you lot are just gone in your head anyway. I'm like, fam, just slow down, take time, learn information, right? So over here, George Hatke presenting information right here. Like, he's a professor at Vienna University. This is his slide. So I've come to the realization, don't put up your own work on the screens. Don't source your own work, source where you're getting your material from. Just give them, just show you, this is what the scholars are saying. Yeah. If you want to argue with somebody, argue with the scholars. Don't argue with me. Okay. Don't argue with me, argue with the scholars. So anyways, everybody knows this within inside of academia, but we're going to speak about it now. Abraha and the Ethiopian king of Himyar. So we're just showing you the location, the areas that Abraha actually ruled. Okay. Abraha is a Ethiopian king who was ruling in the middle of the 6th century onwards. Okay, it says here, having defeated rebels on the home front and consolidated his hold on Himyar, Abraha spent the 550s restoring Himyar's Arabian Empire through a series of military campaigns. In so doing, he curbed the power of Ma'ad, a loose conglomerate of Arab tribes based in Central Asia. Okay, I don't know if you can see it, but there is where it is. Okay, at its maximum extent, the empire created by Abraham extended as far north, yeah, right here where Judah is, okay, far north, um where are we, far north as the borderlands of the Romans and Sassanid Empire, so all the way over here, right? Yeah, all the way over here, Baghdad and all them regions there, right? And stretch far from the Hijaz in the west to the Persian Gulf in the east. Supposedly this area was still ruled by the Sassanids in Oman right here. Okay, so all of this area was ruled by Abraham. And you know what? The good brother JC on Chronic Endgame, he pointed out something very crucial. He said this was the area also, the same area was the same area ruled by Muhammad of the Islamic narrative. Yeah, before Abu Bakr and the rest of them started to do the expansion. This was the same region that Muhammad was supposed, of the Islamic narrative, was supposedly had ruled over. So it's like, ooh, that's very interesting. I never even took time to even think like that. But yeah, that was very interesting to know that. I know the maps that he's talking about, and it's like, yeah, you are right. You are right. Okay, cool. So, anyways, so we know that Abraha ruled this whole region, and this is the region that we're going to be discussing. This is the empire that we're going to be discussing. This is the material culture that we're going to be digging into. We're going to be digging into the contemporary and near contemporary and other literary sources that speaks about Abraha's reign. Okay, we're going to tease out that information, unpack that information to get to understand the context, okay, the context that the Quran emerged out of, the context of, what life would have been like if Muhammad existed during the 6th or the 7th century, because we now have a good idea of things, of what was happening in that time period. Okay, if you have any questions, shalom, if you have any questions, just drop them and we'll get into it. Okay, so let's go. Over here, as I said, this year we're just going straight into like things like this, inscriptions, and we're going to be unpacking it, because I just want to speak to like a certain group of people. All right. So over here, we're going to go down to line number 5. Actually, should we read it? Let's actually read it from the top real quickly. Right. So I don't know if you can see my mouse over here. Maybe I can highlight it. Nope, I can't highlight it. Okay, so anyways, we'll go over here. We've got the word here, B or Bachel, wa rada'a, wa rahmat. Okay, I'll stop there because that's a tripartite formula. So it says here, with the power, the aid or support, and the mercy of Rahmanan wa Meseh, who Messiah, who he's Messiah, wa ra, sorry, no, wa ruh kudus. Oh no, why is it doing that? Kudus. Okay. So it's saying there basically, by the power, the aid, and the mercy of Rahman, he's Messiah, and the Holy Spirit. Okay. So we see there a very Trinitarian formula. But what's very interesting, which we will be discussing, okay, and I will bring out some books that shows you certain things. What's very interesting, we're seeing language that's utilized here that first comes into existence in the Arabian context here during the time frame of Abraham. But we also find that same language and vocabulary found within inside of the Quran. And we'll be touching on that later on. This is not what I'm here for right now, but it's very interesting to see that Abraham introduced this vocabulary, and it's also found within inside of the Quran. Scholars are in minds of, clearly, Abraham and his rule clearly influenced the Quran. Okay, scholars are unanimous with that. I would put forward another argument. It's not that they influenced the Quran or he influenced the Quran. Um, it was written underneath his reign. And that's why there is so much of Abraha's language and vocabulary inside of the Quran. But we'll get into that stage. Anyways, it talks right here about the king. So Abraham wrote this inscription. Says here, yeah, Abraha wrote this inscription. This Musnad, yeah, Abraha Azali, his full name basically is there. And then it talks about that he is the king of the Agazia and Romeus. Okay. So he's basically saying there that he is the independent king of Orthodox Christianity. And it is amazing to see this. Okay. And we even have everything here if you want to actually just see what the scholars say. As I said, I'm not arguing with you guys no more because it's pointless, because you lot are not, don't want to sound like egotistical, like you're not on my level to be arguing with you guys because you don't know this information yet. None of you guys have taken the time out to study Sabaic language or the Gaiz language, or read the the works from like people like Manfred Kropp and so forth. So like it's pointless to have these arguments with people. It's like, just go and read the books. So here's the books. If you want to question my translation, it's all there for you. It's all there for you, basically. It's all there for you. It's got the Agazi there. It tells you that it means independent. It tells you there as well that the word Romaeus, it doesn't simply mean Roman citizen, but it also has, it's synonymous with being Christian inside of the Byzantine times. But it's more specific, not just simply being a Christian. It means that you're an Orthodox Christian, meaning a person who followed the Chalcedonian Creed or the Chalcedonian Synod itself. Okay. So that's what it means. So it's very interesting here that Abraha styles himself as being the emperor, being the monarch of the Orthodox Christian church. Okay, that's how he styles himself. Then he continues to talk about he is the emperor or the king of the various different places, such as Sabah, Zuredan, Hadramat, of the Arabs in the lowlands and the Arabs on the coast, etc. Right? He tells you, this is me. I am the bad man. I am the big bad monarch. Yeah, this is what I represent. I am here to spread my Christianity, which is the Chalcedonian form of Christianity or Diaphysite form of Christianity. This is what I'm standing upon. Interesting, right? Interesting. Over here, I'm just going to give you a quick overview of what it means to be an emperor or a monarch and claiming yourself to be the king of an autocephalic church. Okay, so it has everything here. You can read it through in your own time. Rewatch this and read it through. Administrative influence, governor of councils, enforcer of orthodoxy. He's not the head of the church, but he has powers to put people in play. And again, he doesn't have doctrinal powers as well. He doesn't really have doctrinal powers. He just basically has the power to enforce certain things that the bishops agree upon. Okay, and be able to excommunicate people and other things. He has the power to appoint bishops and so forth, right? So this is how he styles himself. Again, if you want to read some more information, it's all right here on the screen for you. Take a screenshot or just go back and check out the books that I am quoting from. Okay. So we're getting to the heart of it right now. Okay. We're getting to the heart of Abraha right here. The name of this artifact is CIH 541. If you go to the beginning of the presentation, you will see it says CIH 541, and it's the Marib Dam inscription, I believe it's called. Okay, but CIH 541, and right here, if you see at the bottom of the screen, there is a hyperlink attached right here at the bottom. Or you could just go on to dasi.cnr.it. It's right there. Highlight it however you can, with a screenshot, and search it via that. You will bring it up. It will bring up literally the artifact here, like somehow like this. It would also bring up the line for line translation, like here. Okay, and it will give you more information on the artifact as well. As I said, everything is fully sourced. It's all there because, unlike other folks, yeah, that like to come on and debate and argue. It's like, I don't need to hide the information, right? The information is all there for everybody to see. Yeah, it's there for everybody to see and to get involved with. Okay. And I really want, again, the very studious of us to get involved with this information, because most of my conversation talks I will be having, I'm not going to be slowing down to break it down for everybody. I'm literally just going to be talking directly about this stuff. And then for those of you guys who've caught up, we can have like real good conversations on this, because I want it. Because this is like the heart of everything. Because most time people start talking about Islam from like a ninth century version of Islam, and I'm like, bro, that's late in the field. I like talking about the origin. So let's get to the origin of where it really started. And I'm telling everybody, this is where it started. Ground zero. Ground zero. And if any academics, and this I'm giving you information which, truth be told, you could be debating and arguing with academics rather than, anyways. Yeah, this is the good stuff right here. So okay, so right here, CIH 541, we're starting off with Lion 64. This is the appointment or the consecration of the Marib Dam Cathedral. It's installing the priest into the position of being an archbishop, and it's very interesting. And a lot of this stuff, it's like most people won't see, because I read a lot of scholarly works. I'm like, how don't you see these things here? But they don't. But some people just don't understand context. What do I mean by that? So it says here, after having sent out the summons and submitted the Arabs, he entered the city of Marib, this is talking about Abraham, and consecrated the church of Marib, since there was a priest, the abbot of his monastery. Okay. I'm not going to talk to you guys about this. The translation's a bit wobbly, but I'll go ahead with based upon that. So right there, we see that there is a entering into a particular city, and there is a consecration of a church. Now, a lot of times this will go above people's heads because they don't understand what does it mean to consecrate a church. Consecrating this church in particular is talking about installing an archbishop, because only a bishop is able to consecrate a church, right? Every single clergy member has their particular roles. You have deacons, priests, or presbyters, and then you have a bishop. In order to become a bishop, you must first be a priest, or you must first you have to be in a monastery or a monk or whatever the case is, and they choose you to become a bishop. You have to go through the different stages and levels in order to become that. Now, for most people don't know this, that within side of within side of that South Arabian area, there was no bishops that was appointed for literally 23 years, and it's only in the time of Abraham was there a bishop actually installed, ordained, or crowned to become a bishop. So it's very like this is so. There's so much information packed in those little lines there, but if you don't understand the historical context, it can literally go over your head. Um, and I'm just explaining that context to you right now. So very interesting time that there was an archbishop that was consecrated right there, and then also different princes and rulers had to come in and show their respect, honors, and gifts and so forth to this new archbishop and to this new king that had come in and had been crowned. Okay, this is talking about this particular era in time where Abraham had formalized his rule. He had become very steady in his rule. He's created a new nation. He's created a new autocephalic church, meaning he doesn't need to rely on Axum anymore to receive, Axum, who relied upon Alexandria to receive bishops. None of that no more. I am my own entity. I am my own nation. And guess what? Every nation is sent an apostle. So I need my apostle, I need my cathedral, and I need my archbishop. Very interesting stuff when you really get to know like the intricacies of this. So this is like a phenomenal piece of information right here. But what makes it even so much more better is understanding what the literary records had to say about this. So we now have the Greek Christian records, and then we have the Arab Muslim records speaking about Abraham and speaking upon his religious figure that he had. during that time frame. Okay, and they're literally recalling the same inscription, the same event that took place in this inscription. So it's amazing that we have like we can triangulate this information, right? We can literally triangulate this information here, and this is so unique. I don't think guys realize what we have right here with this information, because a lot of historical information, we don't have this amount of attestation, we literally don't have it. But for Abraha, we do. It says here, um, quoting the life and works of St. Gregentius, says here, to the Christ loving King Abraham of the Homerites, many efficient and pious and good years. And they say this as to a new king 10 times. And again, they exclaim, saying, to Elisabah and Abraha. Elisabah is King Caleb, if you don't know. Abraha, of course, we know who Abraha is. Our most pious and Christ-loving kings, many years. To our most holy archbishop and shepherd, Gregentius. And we know again, Gregentius is not his real name. It's actually a made-up name. For what reason? I can speculate and tell you they were trying to definitely conceal the identity of this individual. That's my speculation. I'm going to say that just plain and simple, right? That's a speculation that they were trying to conceal the identity of this individual. But other places, they called him the Blessed One. Many peaceful, healthy, and complete, holy and good years. When the army had exclaimed this, the king returned into his place and went to a meal, offering a rich presents to the army. Oh, I even forgot to show you this bit here, that afterwards, there was a, do you know what? This actually happened on possibly on Christmas Day, or in the inscriptions, actually, it says the very first week of January. This is why I thought it was pertinent I actually did this presentation today, right? There was this mass celebration that took place, okay, and this happened in the first week of January, meaning it could have happened on Christmas Day itself, because Christmas Day is spent on the 7th of January. It could have happened on the 7th of January itself, right? There was this great mass where all of this, resources was spent, you know, to celebrate this mass, to celebrate the consecration of the church, right? And you had, look, 3,000 slaughtered cattle, as well as 7,000 small livestock, 300 camel loads of drinks, etc., date wine, etc. Like, there was a big celebration, right? So after the crowning, sorry, after the consecration of the church, after the ambassadors coming and so forth, you have this meal that was taking place. Okay, interesting, very, very interesting. That's inside of the inscription. And then we find here about the whole consecration of the bishop and the choosing of Abraham as a king. All this took place, and then there was a meal. Okay, like the kings returned into the palace and went to a meal, offering rich presents to the army. So you have king, meal, archbishop, and presence taking place. And then within side of the Islamic account, what do we have again? We have here that there was some Arabs seeking Abraha's bounty. Muhammad was there with his brother Kays. And while they were with him, a feast of Abraha occurred. They say a feast of Abraha, but we'll find out that even they share the same feast, but that's a story. I'm just seeing things that I never saw before. He sent to them to the feast. He used to eat animal testicles. So when the invitation was brought, they said, by God, if we eat this, the Arabs will hold it against us as long as we live. Thereupon Muhammad got up and went to Abraham and said, oh king, this is a festival of ours. Imagine, like, they both having the same festival, the same feast, right? In which we eat only the loins and shoulders. That shows you if they're having a joint festival, a joint feast, right? Right. But we eat in different things. It's showing that there is a difference. There's a similitude in festivals, right? And what is this festival that they're both sharing together? Right. That's the question. Like, it doesn't say, but there has to be a celebration. They're both Christians. So what is this celebration that they're doing? And I would say this has to be the Christmas celebration, but who knows, right? And he says, yeah, we only eat the loins and shoulders. Abraham replied that he would send them what they liked, because his whole sole purpose in inviting them was to show that he honored them. Then he crowned Muhammad and made him Amir of Mudar and ordered him to go among the people to invite them to pilgrimage at his cathedral, which he had built. So we see the same story taking place. There is there is a crowning of Muhammad within inside of a cathedral, and him having some type of religious duty of going amongst the people to invite them to pilgrimage, right? So it's like very, very, very interesting to see the same event retold with inside of the Greek account, the same event told inside of the Islamic Arabic accounts. Very interesting, very, very interesting information. What we do find from what's missing from the Greek account is the name Muhammad, but what we find in the Arabic account is the name Muhammad. Interesting. So we know that this particular archbishop that was crowned, consecrated, was called Muhammad via the Arabic Islamic accounts. Interesting stuff. But it doesn't stop there. It doesn't stop there because we find out a lot more. We find via the Greek Eastern Orthodox account that this particular archbishop underneath Abraha, okay, is said to be a brightly shining prophet of the Himyarites. Okay, so he is a prophet. What else do we find? We find that he also is an apostle. Interesting stuff. And we also find that he had his own divine book that he had written. Interesting stuff. So this Archbishop of Abraha that we know through the Islamic account being called Muhammad, we find through the Greek account that he was a prophet, an apostle, and he had a divine book. Interesting. Interesting. Let me know if you find that interesting. Okay. And then, of course, we find within inside of the Islamic account that he too was also a prophet, or was named in a hope of being a prophet. And then we also find that, as well as having a book from the Greek account, he had a creed. He had a creed. I just wonder if this creed was written down, i.e., within inside of a book. But we do know he had a creed and remained with Abraha in the Yemen until he died with his creed. Interesting stuff. We know that he was ordained or crowned, okay? That he was crowned Muhammad, okay? So we can see that this accounts of this particular prophet, apostle, with his creed, with his own book, who was ordained, who was crowned an archbishop, we find it correlating not only with inside of the Greek accounts, the Islamic accounts, or Arabic accounts, we also find it with inside of the inscription. How so? We find that Abraha's religious teachings. What do we find? We find with inside of the texts about the Messiah, about the Rahman. We find all these things that are completely different to normal Christianity, right? We see that there is a change somewhere, a change in his creed, and we find that same change with inside of the Quran. I'm just wondering. I'm putting it out there. Okay. Like I know what I say, to be honest with you. Let me tell you what I say. And then I want us to actually start thinking for ourselves. Okay. Start thinking for ourselves. I personally say that the Quran is a posthumous redaction of the homiletic writings of this particular archbishop called Muhammad. Okay, this prophet apostle who had his own creed and book. Okay, this particular individual, that's whose Quran it truly is. That's what I say. Okay, I know other people would say no, it's the 7th century Muhammad ibn Abdullah of the Islamic narrations, like traditions. That's where it comes from. I would say no, this is where it truly comes from. Okay, this right here is where it comes from. And we'll go into that in a little while, okay? But I want you to think for yourself. Just think for yourself. Think for yourself. What is more plausible? What's more plausible? A 7th century illiterate Bedouin produced the Quran, or a 6th century archbishop wrote the Quran, that after his death, it was gathered, edited, redacted, compiled, canonized, reformulated, whatever the case is, and then put out to everybody. Like, what do you think? What do you think? Hmm? Interesting. Anyways, let me see if any of you guys have got any questions. Jeez, I fish and the ties here. Easy bands up in the building. Was really good. So I'm just going to show you guys, right, how from the Islamic side of how they were constructing the narrative, how they constructed the narrative of the Islamic Muhammad. And I would put it out there that they were constructing the narrative, and I'm open to being wrong, right? So if you can prove me wrong or give a counter argument, I'm all ears for it. Like, I'm very humble. If you're in the comment section and you want to give me something, do it. If you want to come on and give me something, do it. I don't mind, right? It says here, the Apostle Muhammad diplomatic mission. So we'll find here within inside of the Syria literature that there was a diplomatic document that was discovered. The document was very much so Christian. It was a Christian content in nature. And I'm putting forward that it seems to be the source of the year of deputation narrative. Um, and that's year of deputation narrative. You have the letters that were sent out to the Najashi, the letters that were sent out to the Roman king, the Caesar, letters sent out to the Persian king as well. And then there was various different envoys of the Arabian rulers. Okay, I'm going to say that this document that they found seems to correspond with CIH 541. Why? Because why? We have the ambassador of the Negus, the ambassador of Rome, the king of Persia, the envoys of like different Arab kings, all coming together to meet this particular archbishop that was consecrated, yeah, and king. We have this information. Cool. But what do we find over here? Okay, with inside of the Syrian literature, they claim a particular individual called Yazid. Okay, reading it from the yellow, told me, Ibn Ishaq, okay, that he found a document in which a memorandum of those the apostles sent to the countries and kings of the Arabs and non-Arabs, and what he said to his companions when he sent them. I sent it to Muhammad ibn Shihab al-Zuri. Now, al-Zuri, again, is another famous Sirah literature compiler, very famous hadith distributor. Like, these are famous individuals within side of early Islam who constructed the image of Muhammad as told within side of literature. Okay, you have these two individuals, Zori and Ibn Ishaq. A lot of the things that we know about the life of Muhammad is coming from these two individuals, right? He said that he recognized it. It contained the statements that the apostle went out to his companions and said. Check it. Check what he said. God has sent me as a mercy to all men. So take a message from me. God have mercy on you. Do not hang back from me, as the disciples hung back from Jesus, the son of Mary. They asked, how they had hung back. And he said, he called them to a task similar to that which I have called you. Those who had to go a short journey were pleased and accepted. Those who had a long journey before them were displeased and refused to go. And Jesus complained of them to God. From that very night, every one of them was able to speak the language of the people to whom he was sent. Jesus said, this is a thing which God has determined that you should do, so go. Now, if you know, yeah, this is the story, yeah, of the day of Pentecost. Okay, this is the story of the day of Pentecost. As I said, this story is very much so Christian in nature. This is Jesus sending off his apostles, or making his disciples, sorry, into apostles and sending them out. Muhammad is saying that I am going to be doing something that Jesus did, and I'm going to send you guys out as apostles and send you out to various different nations also. The story continues in the darker purple, blue. It says here, those whom Jesus, son of Mary, sent, both disciples and those who came after them, in the land were Peter, the disciple, and Paul with him. This is very interesting, right? Because you know how, oh, do you know how much Muslims hate Paul? Do you know how much Muslims absolutely despise Paul? But according to this, a Muhammad or their Muhammad states that Peter, disciple, and Paul with him, Paul belonging to the followers and was not a disciple. Of course. Okay. Jesus sent Peter and Paul to Rome. So this has to be the resurrected Jesus. Okay. This is the resurrected Jesus that sent Peter and Paul to Rome, Andrew and Matthew to the land of the cannibals, Thomas to the land of Babel, which is the land of the east, Philip to Carthage, which is Africa, John to Ephesus, the city of the young men of the cave, James to Jerusalem, which is Aelia, the city of the sanctuary, Bartholomew to Arabia, which is the land of the Hijaz, Simon to the land of the Berbers, Judah, uh, who was not one of the disciples, was put in the place of Judas. Okay. So again, we're definitely talking about post resurrection Christ because Jesus was killed off, right? He was killed off or he committed suicide, depending on the story. So it's interesting. It's very, very interesting that they found this document supposedly from Muhammad sending off his followers as Jesus sent off his followers. And this doesn't align at all to the Muhammad we know from the traditions. This doesn't. Unless we're saying it does. But let's go. Let's go. Because you know me, I already say that this is Christianity. So it's very interesting. So if anybody has a counter to that, let me know. Let's talk about it. Okay. So in here, we find out that he sends off his disciples. If you know the Syrian literature, you know that again, the three kings, certain envoys were sent with letters to those three kings. Certain kings ripped up those letters and tore it up and threw it away. And, there's a whole prophecy. So too, your kingdom should be ripped and thrown away. But the only kingdom that never did such a thing, and the only kingdom to say, yes, I'm going to be, I'm with you. Okay. I'm with you, Muhammad. All right. Is the Ethiopians. Those are the only ones. Interesting. Very, very interesting that. I'm just going to say it's interesting. I'm not going to give you any more. Interesting. Cool. So I just want to show you guys, right? Once we start utilizing actual archaeological, historical information that we can find, it tells a different story, because now if we admit to the fact that Abraha, had a prophet. No, let me start with what's more higher. An apostle is higher. An apostle, a prophet who had a divine book, who was also called Muhammad. What does that tell us of the time period that the so-called Islamic Muhammad would have been brought up into? What does that tell you of the people also? Because this person was the most famous person underneath in the 6th century in the Arabian context. There's no other individuals more famous than the king of the country and the religious head of the country. Right? Those are the two most famous individuals. What do you think the people of the time thought? Let's just say the other Muhammad existed. What does that mean? Oh, so you're named after A Christian bishop? How does that inform our way of thinking? Like, I'm just saying, how does that inform our way of thinking? I'm just gonna leave it there for a minute. Oh, you're doing like the Abraha's bishop did, and you're coming in Abraha's bishop's name, Muhammad? Oh, and you're coming to bring a book just like Abraha's bishop Muhammad came and brought a book? Oh, you're coming to unite the polity of Arabia just like Abraha's bishop did? It's like, eh? Does that make sense? Or like, is that a good way of thinking about it? Or can we think about it another way? I'm just giving you food for thought. I'm not saying anything to you guys. I'm just wanting you all to think for a minute. Like, what does it mean? What does all this mean? Once we start understanding history. Okay. So over here, and again, as I said, I say the Quran, yeah, yeah, belongs to my Muhammad, my Christian Archbishop Muhammad. I say it belongs to him. Obviously, it was compiled and redacted after his death. Okay. And, certain things could have crept in. But apart from that, I say that the bulk of that text definitely is Muhammad, the Archbishop, underneath Abraha's text. But Kalam, why do you say? Okay, let's quote Nicolai Sinai. Okay, Nicolai Sinai, another big scholar within side of Islamic studies. You know what he's done? He's looked at the Quran and he says, "I'm gonna write a paper on this because I'm seeing something that's very startling, very curious. We can see that Muhammad is represented as, or is spoken of as within side of the Quran, as an episcopal figure, meaning an episcopal figure means you're a bishop, by the way. Episcopal, episcopi, it's a bishop, right? He's seeing the one-to-one parallels. Is like, hold on, these are the things that bishops did. You know who else said this as well? Sean Anthony said this, another big boy scholar. Everybody's seeing these parallels. Nobody else, I'm going to say this, like, I'm sure none of you lot have ever heard that Muhammad was an archbishop prior to me saying it. Nobody has ever spoken on this to you. But guess what's going to start to happen? Because scholars writing in 2025, the year ending, like the year just gone, they're now bringing this information out. But Kalam, you were saying this way before, though, weren't you? Yeah, that's what I'm telling you. This information that I'm teaching is going to become so mainstream. And I want you guys, who are the real scholars in the community, to grab hold of this information because there's going to be a time and a point where you are going to be recruited in order to teach this information. All this apologetic work that you see going on, it's like fun and entertainment now. But people are going to yearn for real knowledge, real education, real stuff. What actually took place in the 6th century and the 7th century? How was Islam birthed? Tell us about Christianity. Tell us about the Christian communities that were there. Oh, tell us about the Ethiopians and this and that. People want to know this information. So I want to give this to you guys now so that you lot educate yourself and then you lot would have a position to educate others on this stuff. Okay, cool. It says here, in sum, the Medinian Muhammad. Okay, so the Quran, for academics, they split up the Quran into two phases: Medinian Quran and the Meccan Quran. The Meccan Quran is like the earlier layers, they say, of the Quran, and the Medinian layers is the later layers of the Quran. Okay, so in the later layers of the Quran, it says here, the Medinian Muhammad combines a range of tasks similar to that performed by late antique bishops, such as communal exhortation, serving as a moral exemplar, arbitration and adjudication, the redistribution of wealth, charitable purposes, and confronting pagan and Jews, both discursively and violently. Moses was the biblical model par excellence for bishops, especially among Greek authors. Thus, the fact that the Medinian Quran continues the late antique habit of casting an eminent individual in the image of Moses could at least in part be rooted in the fact that episcopal leaders in particular would often map specific situations in their life onto situations in the life of Moses. In view of all these parallels, it would not be amiss to characterize the Quranic messenger as playing the role of an overseer, which is, of course, the literal meaning of the Greek word episkopos, bishop, okay, of the spiritual and communal well being of the believers. Captivatingly, captivatingly, the Quran calls Muhammad a bishop, an episcopi. It calls him an overseer. Okay, it says here Quran 2143 and 2278 actually describes the messenger as a shaheed set up over the believers. While the term, and it continues, it's missed out here because it's on the next page, but it basically shows you that it means an over. It means the term Shahid means to be a witness or a seer, somebody who looks over something or bears witness to something or sees something, and then to be seer over a community means to be an overseer. Like it breaks it all down. So it's interesting, right? It's interesting that we can find all these parallels. Even the Quran testifies to the fact that the person who wrote this seems to be a bishop. But you know what the world is going to say? We don't want to hear that because the world ain't ready to hear this information. The world definitely isn't ready to hear that the Quran is actually a Christian text. It's not ready to hear that. Because again, we can go into the language that's used with inside of what? With inside the inscription. And then we can see the same language being used inside of the Quran. So, for example, the Quran, chapter 30, I believe it is called Surah Al-Rum. It's called Rum. Yeah. Remember, we saw earlier on, I showed you where it's the term here in Abraha's inscription, right? You have it right here, RM, and then it has the Romaeus, Rum. So this is basically Rome, Romaeus right here, right? But in the Quran, it has it as Rum, right? But they translate it as just like a normal Roman, like the Romans will have victory, like it's talking about like Romans. But is that the only way you could translate that word? Is that what the context depicts, even? Right? If you understand the context that it was written under this, right, meaning an Orthodox Christian, you will understand why the Quran is pro Rome, pro, some people say Byzantine. It just didn't make sense. Like even the scholars, they don't understand it. They're like, what do you mean? Like, why is the Quran being pro Byzantium, pro Rome? It doesn't make any sense to them. And the reason why it doesn't make sense because you're reading it in the wrong context. And this is what I'm here for. Yeah. I'm here to be that gadfly that stings you into operation, forces you to start putting out information, correct information. Right. Because Rome isn't, you don't just translate it as that. What is the context? Rome, as it quite clearly says here, term Rome, Romaeus, as a self-designation do not only or primarily mean Orthodox Christian. The same person could be simultaneously and acknowledged as an Orthodox Christian and not be acknowledged as a Roman. And nobody would come to the idea to deny Romanist to a heretic, like say Sergius or of Constantinople, or that the matter of Emperor Heraclitus himself. Okay, so we're saying here that Rome could mean an Orthodox Christian, and it can mean somebody who is an Orthodox Christian, but not actually a Roman themselves, but Rome is used as a Roman, as an Orthodox Christian. But it also can be used as for a heretic who is not Orthodox. It can also say that they are Roman because that's their ethnicity as well. So it has different designations. It can mean Orthodox Christian or it can be ethnically Rome, whatever the case is. But what was the context of the Quran? The Quran says that the Rum, and I'm going to translate it now to you guys as the Orthodox Christians had been defeated, but they will be in a few years they will like be successful, they will get victory and they will be successful. 'Cause that's the promise of Allah, basically. And when that time happens, guess what's going to happen? The mu'minin, the mu'minun, the believers will rejoice. Question: why would, if you want to translate it as Romans, like just like Roman citizens, why would the Muslims in Quay Arabia be rejoicing because the Byzantiums won a fight? It doesn't make any sense. But if you understand the context and you understand that just like the Romans, let's say the Romans over there are Orthodox Christians, and this book is for Orthodox Christianity, it's Orthodox Christianity teachings, the community of Orthodox Christians, you'll understand why the community would rejoice over another group of Orthodox Christians becoming victorious. You'll understand that's what it's talking about. It's not just talking about what's it called? Any war that's going on. No, it's talking about there is battles, debates that was taking place where Orthodox Christianity versus Miaphysite Christianity or Oriental Orthodox Christianity was taking place, and they lost. And certain things had to come into, certain councils came into play, and they were now being persecuted. But if you don't understand 6th century history, you completely miss the context of that. Then you know what it says again? It says later on in the chapter, it's talking about resurrection, all these things here. These were the debates that were taking place in the 6th century about resurrection, whether there will be a bodily resurrection or is it just going to be spiritual. Severus of Antioch, Severus anyway, was having these like, this is what's, again, if you don't know the context, you will lose it. And this is the first time in the history, 451, 453, whatever it was, you had the split. You had the split that took place, the Church of the East, the Nestorians. Then you have the Miaphysite Christians. And then you have the Rum, or the Melikites, or the Orthodox Christians. Those were the three groups. But the Orthodoxy is what they're trying to say, this is what you should be holding on to. What does the Quran start speaking about? Why have you lot, in that same chapter, you lot have turned yourselves into different sects? Stop that. Again, if you don't understand the context, you will lose it all. You lose it all. Okay? Abraha, he's Muhammad, and so forth were Roman Christians or Orthodox Christians. Let's say Eastern Orthodox Christians, but they're not Eastern Orthodox. Let's say Eastern Orthodox. Let's use that. But remember, they were autocephalic, so they had their own thing going on. Just like Cyprus in 453, right? In the Ephesus Council, they became autocephalic. So too did Abraha become autocephalic in Arabia. But again, there's so much that you have to learn. There's so much. I can't even lie. And I see why it's easier just to watch apologetic information, because it's just easier to consume. With this, you actually have to learn and do the work. Okay. Real quickly then, let me just quickly go in. When did the confusion of Muhammad start? The Ethiopians were documenting. Wouldn't they have written large amounts of information on Arab and Muhammad Islam reaching Somalia during the 7th century? Zachariah, good question. Guess what? People have started to understand. Racism is alive. They're just concealing it. I'll repeat that again. Racism is alive. They are just concealing it. And it is, I hate saying it like it's a victimized stuff here, because I'm not trying to do all of that. I'm just trying to show you guys that there is a certain amount of silence. Scholars have admitted to it themselves. So it's not me just saying it, because this is what I mean. Like, sometimes you have to justify, because now you're black skinned, you have to justify these things. But no, it's true. Like, scholars understand this is a reality. Orientalism, it's a reality. There is so much information within inside of Ethiopian history and literature. There is so much information within inside of Old Nubian, which is like, Christian Nubian, basically, like within Sudan. There's so much information that's just there, written. But who is actually translating it, picking it up, going into the archives and doing it? Nobody. Why? Because nobody cares what these niggas did. Astaghfirullah. But it's the truth. It's true. And I now have to take on some accountability, even though I don't have to, because they're not my people. Yeah. Like, just because we share the same dark hue, yeah, like, they're not my people. Sudanese people are not my people. Ethiopian people are not my people. I'm from West Africa, right? But the problem is, as Africans, where we now need to start taking accountability and be like, you know what? Let's actually go into my Ethiopian history, read it, translate it, do scholarly works on it to talk about what took place in that time frame. Me as a Somalian do the same thing. Me as somebody from Djibouti do the same thing. Me as somebody from Eritrea do the same thing. Me as somebody from Sudan do the same thing. Me as somebody who's from Egypt do the same thing. Me as somebody from Tunisia do the same thing. Me as somebody from Morocco do the same thing. Because unfortunately, we rely too much on Western academia to do it. And this is why, like, if you are trained in Western academia, go back to your home countries and go back and do the history and to translate the stuff, because nobody else is going to do it for you, unfortunately. And we can cry about it and we can say, is racism. Okay. Like, we can admit, we can see, like, clearly, like, nobody cares. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. I think, let me see. I've got something here as well that literally talks about, we do not care. It exists, but we don't do, like, do you know how long Abraha's inscriptions has been there for? 1965. 1965. Let me do the maths. Quick maths. That's over 60, coming to 70 years. Let's say that's 60 years, at least minimum, of scholarship that could have been done on this stuff. But only recently we're now finding, and it's now becoming a little bit more mainstream. Let me actually show you something. Let me show you something actually. Just to show you. Present, stop screen. And I'll get back to that. Window. I was reading this. Yeah. Yeah. What is this here? Okay. I contend here that the legacy of revisionist historiography opened up new ventures to explain the Arabian context of Islam through new or overlooked sources that come out of the Arabian Peninsula. It's either new information, but we can't say that the inscriptions are new information, because it's not. It's just simply overlooked, ignored, left to the side. And I'm telling you, like, they say this, they tell you there's so much Ethiopian stuff, so much Nubian stuff that's there, that's talking about 5th, 6th, 7th century, like when Islam just started. There's so much of that information there, but nobody has taken the time out to actually unpack it. Nobody. So again, I'm going to say, yeah, this is for the select few. This information that I'm dropping, yeah, every time I'm on here is for the select few. I need you guys, yeah, who are Western academically trained, to go and learn this stuff. Go back into these ancient texts. Yeah. And I'm telling you, in terms of like monetarily wise, yeah, you lot could make a good living monetarily wise, yeah, if you're smart about it too. I'm just saying, and like, if you're monetarily minded, you could make a good living from doing something like that. Or educate your children to do something like that. Because there is, like, people want to know this information, but it's just not there. It's not just easily accessible. Even myself, I'm like, I had to write down to myself, like, I like this information, but I need a teacher. And if I was to have a teacher, what would they need to know? Oh, well, first of all, they would need to know old South Arabian inscriptions. Okay, cool. What else would they need to know? They would need to know Arabic. Cool. What else would they need to know? They would need to know Ge'ez. Okay. What else would they need to know? They would need to know Arabic. Okay. What else would they need to know? They would need to know Greek. What else would they need to know? They would need to know Coptic. What else do they need to know? They're gonna need to know all these different languages and stuff and whatever. I was like, ah, cool. Let me go into these universities and see which one of these departments, Islamic studies, whatever the case is, teaches any of this. They don't. And the reason, and the mere fact that they don't, means you will never get this information because they're just one way inclined. Like, it's like, oh, Near Eastern studies, we only focus on Greek stuff. Oh, we only focus on like Persian stuff. Oh, we only focus on that. It's like, okay. So which one of you guys who are part of Islamic studies are studying South Arabian inscriptions? Ah, okay, cool. So which one of you guys are studying Ge'ez, which is a language that was written in Arabia? Like, and none of you guys are. Ah, okay. Pardon me. I don't say none of you guys. We do have Haytham Siddiqui and Ahmed Jalad that's gone into the South Arabian inscriptions and North Arabian inscriptions. Those are the only two that have started to do something like that. It's like, yeah, we're not going to get far at all. So there needs to be a revolution. And in the revolution, really and truly needs to come from the academic community. And really and truly, it needs to be people like you guys who are interested in this information from like YouTube land. You guys will be the ones that will go onto their platforms and ask them questions and get them to change up and fix up, to be honest with you. Like what I'm doing right now is creating a pressure group to get people to start changing the narrative. But anyways, yeah, this is an excellent article, by the way. It's called "The Arabian Context of Muhammad's Prophethood." Very good. Okay, because these authors are now starting to go. Let me see. When was this written? Suleiman Dost. See, like good Arabic names. Like that's what I mean. You need them ethnics, them Arabs themselves to come in and actually do the research. Okay. What's interesting is, yeah, they even pull for it. They're like, here, let's go to CIH 541. Yeah. Because that's the way we're going to find the term Rasul and Khalifa. These are big boy terms within inside of the Quran, right? But we don't find it anywhere else but within inside of Abraha's inscriptions. So as I'm going to say to you guys, right? This whole Abyssinian Arabia is going to explode in the next like 5 years to 10 years. It's absolutely going to explode because scholars are coming to the realization that we now need to stop being unconsciously racist, yeah, and start figuring out what was going on in Arabia, which means we now need to know what was happening with Ethiopia and how they were ruling Arabia. And now we need to start reading their inscriptions. And now we need to start reading the Ge'ez information too. Interesting. Interesting. Okay, cool. Let me finish off the presentation slide though. So, where were we? Stop sharing that. Share screen and over here. So, to conclude everything, we have kind of learned today that Ethiopians controlled and ruled over Arabia in the 6th century. Abraha converted his state religion from Miaphism. I know that word is wrong. I need to actually go and check this up. To Orthodoxy. Abraha styled himself as monarch of an autocephalous Orthodox church. He consecrated the Archbishop of Abyssinia in the Marib capital city. Archbishop is known as Muhammad in Islamic accounts. Archbishop is known as the Blessed One in the Orthodox accounts. The Quranic Muhammad fits the model of a 6th century Abyssinian bishop versus what? An illiterate Bedouin nomadic person. Okay. And over here, I'm giving you a nice timeline. I know a lot of you guys will ask for timelines. So over here is a nice little timeline, 500 AD. Axum gains suzerainty over Himyar and the majority of the Arabian Peninsula. In 522, it's got the Nuas massacre that took place. 525, Caleb's expedition. 535, Abraha overthrows Sumayyafa and rises to power over Himyar and the Arabian Peninsula, and Abraha solidifies his independence from Axum, subdues rebellion, and ordains his archbishop called Muhammad. And then, of course, in 560 AD is his last inscriptions that seems to be commemorating the building of the cathedral at Sinai. Okay, very interesting. So, yeah, hopefully you lot could screenshot this, learn from this, go back, research the information I've provided. And again, I put this here in the slide because sometimes, people don't like to hear from me. They rather hear from the scholars themselves. And over here, it says here, the implications for the rise of Islam, Abraha's Christianity. This is again from Dr. George Hatke, and in his A Crossroad of Late, it's called South Arabian Christianity, yeah? A Crossroad of Late Antique Cultures. And it says here, actually, you all can read it for now. Abraha's Christianity. In contrast to inscriptions from Sumayyafa Ashwa's reign, which employ Christian terms of Ge'ez derivation, the Christian terminology in Abraha's inscription is Syriac, and in one case, possibly Greek. This corresponds with the use of foreign loanwords in the Quran, where Syriac loanwords far outnumber the Ge'ez. Although an Ethiopian by birth, Abraha seems to have adhered to a Christianity deriving from a source rather different from that of Sumayyafa Ashwa. Interesting that, right? That we can see that the Quran has a lot of Syriac loanwords. Oh, but guess what? Abraha's inscription seems to have a lot of Syriac loanwords. Interesting that. We know that the previous Axumite puppet kings that were in play from Himyar, they followed the Ge'ez version, okay, which were Miaphysite Christianity. But it seems as though Abraha broke away from that because he aligned himself with the Romans. He aligned himself with the Syrian Christians and with the Byzantine Emperor Justinian. Okay, I think I did a show on Justinian, how Justinian was the one that I spoke about we've been discussing the Abyssinian origins of Islam, but I said today this show is about the Byzantine origins of Islam, because once you understand both, right? Let's make it racialized. Let's racialize it. Once you understand the black influence and the white influence, right? Then you'll understand how and why Islam was formed and created in that time period and what it was all about. Okay. Again, continuing, a transition to a different conception of the role of Jesus can also be observed in Abraha's inscription. While Jesus is referred to as Rahman's son and Christ the victorious in Istanbul 7608, this from Sumayyafa Ashwa's reign, he's referred to as Rahman's Messiah in inscriptions from Abraha's reign. The Christology which prevailed during Abraha's reign might have influenced. See, this is what I love, these scholars would tiptoe and speak delicately, where I just say it as how it is. It says here, it may have influenced Muhammad's teachings, as suggested by Raban, in view of the manner in which Jesus is presented in the Quran as the Messiah, but not the Son of God. Okay, so in Abraha's inscriptions, we see that Jesus is no longer called the Son of God, but he is called the Messiah of God. Right? And then we find within inside of the Quran that Jesus is not called the Son of God, but rather he is called the Messiah of God. Okay, so it seems as though the Christology of, they claim, scholars are claiming, the Christology of Abraha seems to have influenced the Quran. I say no. The Christology of Abraha is one and the same as in the Quran. It's not a case of influencing, it's a case of being the same. It's not even a case of continuity. It's just, it is the same because it was produced in the same era. But whenever you guys ready, you can fight me on that. Okay. And what was interesting, I was doing something today. I think it was the city, like, it's so funny, like, because I read. And the author of the Quran says certain things. And it's, to me, it's always interesting how the later Quranic tafsirs and exegesis and scholars, they completely turn things on a 180. Okay. And then they make everybody else believe that 180 narrative. And I'm like, is it just me that can see this, but you lot can't? Make it make sense. Make it make sense. So let me give you an example of what I'm talking about actually. Um, let's see, stop. Let me stop the screen share. Let's see. Where is it? Okay, there's two places in the Quran, yeah. Okay, this is a blessed book which we have revealed, confirming that came before it, so you may warn the mother of the cities and everyone around it. Okay, let me go to chapter 42, verse 7. Yeah, let's do that. Let me do that real quickly. Um, 42, verse 7. 6, 7. Okay, cool. Let me show you the tricknology, the absolute tricknology, and then we can move from there. Okay. It says here, and thus we have revealed to you an Arabic Quran that you may warn the mother of cities and those around it, and warn of the day of assembly, about which there is no doubt. A party will be in paradise and a party in the blaze. Now, what I found interesting is, yeah, everybody thinks this is to do with Mecca. Why do they think it's to do with Mecca? I'll tell you why. Because the translators have put Mecca there in parenthesis. That's one way of tricknology. Because you would read this and you would now think Mecca, 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 Mecca. Yeah? But the text doesn't say that. It says the mother of the cities. Then they will do what else to you? They'll give you narratives and stories that Muhammad was from Mecca. Mecca, 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 Mecca. So now anytime you read certain things, all you associate it with is Mecca, 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 Mecca. I asked one of my friends today, you see mother of cities, yeah? What does it mean? Like if you was to just translate that in English, what do you think that means? Like Umul Kora. Well, today we'll say like the capital city. I was like, cool. So like the UK, England, what's the capital of the UK? Oh, clearly that's London. Okay, so what's the capital of France? Oh, that's Paris. Okay, cool. America, New York. Okay, cool, cool, cool. So we know that, right? But none of us is asking the question, what is the capital of Arabia? What is the capital of Arabia? Most people don't even know that Arabia has a capital to even be asking the question, what is the capital of Arabia? Okay. And I'm not talking about, let me be more specific, because I'm not talking about modern day Arabia. I'm talking about in the 6th century. What was the capital? 7th century? What was the capital of it? 5th century? Whatever you want to go. What was the capital? Okay. So over here, let's see if we've got this up. Yeah. Yeah, this is nice. This is nice. Yeah, because with inside of Abraha's inscriptions, it has like, it shows you where Saba, it talks about he's the king of Saba, he's the king. That's the first city he makes mention of, right? The king of Saba, the king of Raidan, which is Himyar, the king of Hadramat, etc., 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 right? But his prime location, yeah, country is what? Saba. What was the capital of Saba? Modern historians agree that the heartland of the Sabian civilization was located in the region around Marib and Sirah. What do we find here? Marib is the capital city of Marib, of Marib government, Yemen. It was the capital of the ancient kingdom of Sabah, which some scholars believe to be the ancient Sheba of biblical fame. Okay, cool. So we see here that Muhammad was sent, yeah, was sent where? to the mother of the cities. In ancient times, everybody know the mother of the city of the Arab kingdom is what? The mother country. Let's just start there. The mother country is Saba. The mother city is Marib. Interesting. Interesting that. But yet, guess what? No one puts two and two together. Yeah. Yeah. No one puts two and two together and say, but hold on. Abraha, when he ruled, he he did what? He consecrated the cathedral in Marib, his capital city, where every person had to go to. You had the Negus, the ambassador of the Negus came, the ambassador of Rome came, the ambassador of Persia came. They all came, yeah, to the town of Marib, right? His capital city. Interesting. Where his archbishop, apostle, prophet resided. And his archbishop, apostle, and prophet in the Quran states that what? He has to warn the people of the mother city, Marib, and the surrounding areas, but nobody's putting two and two together. That's why, yeah, I say, boy, you need to come out of the matrix, you know. You need to come out of the matrix to actually understand history at times. Okay, cool. Let me read some of your comments. We got some super chats as well. All right, I'm reading comments right now, so real quickly. Now let me go from start. Easy bands, peace and blessing to you, King. Love. Have you seen ancient Eritrean views of history? I have not yet. I have not yet. You know, the man says hashtag reclaim Quran, hashtag reclaim Muhammad, W Kalam, W Abyssinia. We live, baby. We live. And you gotta like the live too. Let's go. All right, easy bands up in here. The original Quran. Now we just have to find it, you know. I bet there's no Islamic dilemma in the original Quran, you know. Let's go. I would love to educate. I would love you to educate inspiring philosophy. I know. I'm not going to say I know to all of these things, you know. Hey, I need to. 100%. When did the confusion of Muhammad start? Okay, I think I did this one already. Yeah, I did this one already. Okay. Man, like I can't up in the building. On the appearance of the original Arabs and Muhammad, how can a religion spread so big and quickly and the followers majority don't believe Muhammad or Arabs as dark black? When did this happen? It happened roughly in the 9th century yet again, with kind of like Baghdad and Kufa being the center. But at the same time though, did it really happen then? There were racist elements that started to creep in then, and you would see the pro-black pushback taking place. So what I mean by that is in the early like 7th, 8th century, a lot of the Arab rulers were mixing in with like the Syrians and the Romans and the Persians, and you know, they were becoming lighter skinned and they were taking on the ideas of those people. And there started to be some type of colorism that was present, so to speak. But those who hadn't mixed in were like, shut up, rude boy. Like, how can you talk nonsense? Like, don't you understand that I'm from the pure Arab blood? Like, I have not been diluted. I have not been mixed out. And like, they were very proud and prideful of their color and complexion, of being dark-skinned people. They were very prideful of it. Very, very much so prideful. If you go into any Arab dictionary and you type in Arab, or if you even type in like hair and features and so forth, you see that the Arabs themselves consider themselves to be of the black race. I do black race because race isn't really something that's not real reality. Okay, um, but for them, there was a concept of a black supergroup that Nubians, Ethiopians, West Africans, Yemenis, and Ethiopians. They were all part in their mind. They were part of this black group, and they consider themselves to be off part of that black group as well. So it's like it's very interesting that after years it starts to change, right? In fact, it's interesting that today we become naive of the racial connotations. So, for example, the Jews and everybody else, like even the Christians, yeah, they were calling them Hagarenes, right? They were calling them Hagarenes, but technically speaking, that was like a derogatory term, right? That they kind of rolled with anyway. What do I mean by that? If you see how Hagar is described with inside of Jewish literature and other literature, Christian literature as well, they'll tell you she's a black woman. She's a black woman, even. Yeah. Blick black woman with curly hair and so forth. Right. But it was derogatory in the sense that she was only a maidservant. Yeah. Like whereas Sarah, we are like better off, but they're maidservants. So like, the Ishmaelites are like wild people, basically. So they were using it when they're calling them Ishmaelites and Hagarenes, it was really a derisive terminology. But if you really think about it, the early Christians and the early Jews calling them these names were saying that, yeah, you black people, because Hagar was obviously a black person, right? To them. But now we don't really associate Arabs with black people anymore, right? But back then, they 100% did. For example, Spain, early times, they will say, oh, yeah, Arabs, the Moors, Moranos, it literally means black, dark skinned people. But somehow it's lost. It's lost because of the miscegenation that was taking place. And then colorism took place. And then the language that was describing Muhammad um, kind of focused on the white and red narrative that's present and kind of suppress the other narratives. So even inside of their minds, they're thinking that Muhammad is a white man. So it's like there's so much that went into it. It's not just like after a certain time period. There's so many different factors of, let's say number one, miscegenation that was taking place, mixing in with these different people. Then, understanding colorism snuck in, and then after colorism sneaking in, you have like things to do with the curse of Ham and all these things here started to come in. And then there was a lot of slavery taking place. So it's the justification of slavery and so forth. So we want to distance ourselves from being black now. We are part of the white. We're from the northern Arabs rather than being southern Arabs. So it's like there's so much that took place. It's not something that we could pinpoint to one time in history. We could just see how it started to progress when you start looking at every single century and seeing how scholars were speaking in every single century. A good book on this actually is, I think it's Bernard Lewis, and it's to do with slavery, medieval Arab slavery or something like that. Bernard Lewis is a red book. Bernard Lewis, something to do with slavery and Arabs. Go into that. It gives like an excellent breakdown of what took place. Okay. Cool. I recently learned from Eastern and Ethiopic sources the brothers of Jesus were nicknamed Barabbas per Mark 6:3. Jesus had brothers James, Joseph, Jude, and Simon. Acts speak of Joseph as Judas. Ooh, interesting. Yeah. Okay, Barabbas. I found a coffin of Simon Barabbas. This must be the brother of Jesus. I think we can attain the DNA of the Holy Family. Jeez. All right. Is that because of the tritheism heresy of John Polydopus? I need to go back and double check. I don't know. But yeah, there was tritheism taking place during that time frame. And the Quran seems to reject the tritheism as well. It says, cease, do not say three, and so forth. That's one argumentation that's been put forward, but I think that you could see something else taking place as well. But the argument is that is tritheism that the Quran was arguing against. I can't remember if it was specifically to do with John Polydopus. Okay, I need to go back and recheck that to really know, to give you a definitive answer on that. Matthew up in the building. Hey, I can't wait. I can't wait, my broski. Hey, love. Quran may claim Jesus is the Son of God. I think Abraham believed Jesus is the Son of God, but he was in community of extreme Jewish contention towards Christians, so he was being political, possibly. I think, I think, I think you're right, but I think there is more nuance there. Okay, so let me read this again. Quran may claim Jesus is the Son of God. Okay, that's one claim. I think Abraham believed Jesus is the Son of God, but he was in. Okay, so my thing is, I also do think Abraham knew that Jesus is the Son of God according to the scriptures, but he you have to go back into what was taking place. I might put it up. I might put it up. It's inside of the martyrdom of Harith. Or is it the Book of Himarites? Let me check. I'll check. It's the Book of Himarites. But you'll understand that there was a Christological problem that was taking place. Is Jesus? They asked the questions like, is Jesus the Son of God, and is Jesus God? Okay. And those who answered the affirmative, they were being burnt alive, supposedly. And this was supposedly taking place by Jews. But then it also says that the Christians, certain Christians, were helping them to do that to these Christians. Okay. But if you understand what took place, once you're excommunicated, yeah, yeah, like Christians were killing each other. Okay, Chalcedonian Christians and non-Chalcedonian Christians were killing each other, but this seems to hinge this whole Jewishness, Jewish something that happened. It seemed to hang on whether Jesus was the Son of God or not God. Okay, and I personally think that every Christian acknowledges Jesus is the Son of God, but what do you mean by the Son of God? That's more what it's all about. It's the intricacies. When you say Son of God, what do you mean by Son of God? Because even Jews, yeah, acknowledge that different individuals are sons of gods, right? So technically speaking, Jews shouldn't have a problem with that because the Messiah in their literature is a son of God. Adam is a son of God. David is a son of God. Their holy men could be sons of gods. But what do you mean when you say son of God? What do you mean by son of God? Yeah, it's that intricacy that's taking place. When you call somebody God, what do you mean by that? It's the intricacies. Okay. And I think that if you read more to do with like Nestorian teachings and like the whole debates that was going on, you'll understand that. Yeah, you'll understand that certain groups, it seems as though they were just emphasizing only the godliness, the God nature of Christ, that he's just God, and kind of like limiting the humanness of God. Whereas the term Messiah, okay, or Christ encompasses, the actual word encompasses both the divine and the human in it. And then also it has a much more biblical connotation where you can find, Jesus being called God's Messiah and so forth. So it's like they knew what they were doing. It's very intricate. Like it's long to go into it right now, but it's very intricate to understand this whole Son of God talks because Jews would not understand it. Let me not even go into it, man. It's too much, right? That's a whole show in by itself. Yeah. Okay, peace and longevity upon all. Sorry, let me put that up. Okay. You know a lot of technology. Your good brother Cal. Yeah. Mecca. Sana. Yeah, Sana as well. But Marib was, so there was three capitals. Let me do that. There was three capitals, right? In the Himyarite capital, the Himyarite capital was Zafar. But generally speaking, Sabah it would have been Marib. And then somehow within inside of like they state that Sana became a capital, definitely within inside of the Islamic literature. We can see that Sana played a prominent role, but to say it was the capital, we haven't seen any. I haven't seen any evidence of it yet because I almost got sucked in. But in terms of like actual archaeological evidence, I haven't seen it yet. Okay, when did Arabs become physically different from original Arabs? I know Arab stock tons of skin says. Um, when did they overtake the original? Good question. It's I don't know because darker skinned people are still being called the original Arabs. Um, yeah, yeah, yeah. Because I know several times, like people have asked me, "Oh, like you look like them, like the Arab." I'm like, okay, cool. Or they even call me a Yehudi. I remember I was in Egypt, and they're like, "Yeah, yeah, Yehudi, Yehudi." I was like, "Nah, man, I'm none of those people. I know I look like it. I don't know. It's the complexion, maybe it's the nose. I don't know what it is, but so yeah, those people still do exist. They still do live in like Yemen, Oman, and so forth, in like southern Arabia. You still find that. But there was loads of admixtures. Arabs literally means like a mix of people anyway. To say when the lighter form became predominant, that's hard. That's hard. That's hard to say. Because I would say light-skinned people always existed within inside of Arabia, even South Arabia and other regions, because anytime you have a port city, like anytime you have like a region that you're, if you're not quite inland or in the mountains or whatever, and you are like in a trade city or port city, different people will be coming together. Like I could speak, for example, for those of us who are in the UK or we know New York, so we have London, New York, right? It's multicultural. You have everybody coming in to do some form of business here, right? So you've got everybody coming in and we become a melting pot. So it's like at what point did, I don't know, the Londoner become, I don't know, a mixed race looking person? Like it's like, I don't know. I don't know how to answer that question. That's very difficult to answer that question. We know that it started to take place in after the Windrush era. After that took place, then we have other groups coming in, and then you have other ethnicity. Like it's like there's so much influx of different groups of people coming into London, into the UK, coming in and then mixing with each other. It's like it becomes a hot a hot pot, literally, because you have like, I'm just thinking, I'm gonna go into my family right now. Yeah, it's like, when did my family become mixed? I don't know. Like I have, what's it called? Is it Philippines, and that mixture. It's like, okay, cool. Then we have, I don't know, a mixed race Jamaican mixture with that. Then we have a Trinidadian mixture there. Then we have like a Norwegian mixture there. Then we have, there's so much mixtures taking place. It's like there's that, and then the next generation will mix with another group of people. So it's like, I don't know. I don't know how to truly explain that, because there's just successive generations of mixtures that was taking place. That after a while, you know, the darker skinned Arabs didn't find other darker skinned Arabs attractive and started mixing with the lighter skinned people. Okay. Um, Interesting. What when Jesus is mentioned before Ayatul Kursi, the verses talk about Christians killing each other over disagreements. Yeah. Hey, I can't wait for that. I can't wait for that because I know you're dropping it. Okay, Trinity in Quran. Allah sent his word and spirit into Mary. Isa is word and God in the Quran. Yes. Of course. Of course. This is the question to ask Muslims, right? And because if you know the creed, yeah, this is like so easy to ask Christians, Muslims, right? Ask Muslims, you see the word of Allah. The word of Allah, is the word of Allah eternal? Most won't even know the answer to this, but it was already established that the word of Allah is eternal. Okay, so you see, if the word of Allah is eternal, yeah, it's not something that's created, right? No, it's not something that's created. It's eternal. Okay, so is it part of Allah? Is it part of his essence, or is it something separate from his essence? If they say it's something separate from his essence, there's like that means there's two eternal things in existence. So it's like they have to say it's part of Allah. It's like one with Allah. It's part of his essential nature. Oh, okay, 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 okay. Cool. So you agree with the as us as Christians that God's word is eternal and consubstantial with it, of the same essence, right? Light of light, true God, right? It's the same God nature. Yes, yeah, yeah, yeah. We agree. Okay, so you see the spirit of God, right? You see the spirit of God. Is that something that is that something that's eternal too, or is it created? You leave them in a conundrum now. Most Muslims won't even answer that question because it will mess them up. Because now, if you say that Allah's spirit is created, Allah has a created spirit. Ugh, you can't say that. But now, if you say that Allah's spirit is eternal, but you don't have no what's it called? You have nothing to back it up with. You put yourself in a predicament. So it's like, what do I do here? I don't know the answer. Ah, but if they answer and they know the answer is like, yeah, Allah's spirit is eternal. Okay, so is it consubstantial? The answer obviously is yes. Allah has a spirit. Allah's spirit is part of Him. Allah's spirit is one with Him. It's not something separate. It's not something. It's just something distinct from His other attributes. Cool. Ah, so then, what exactly do you have a problem with the Trinity when you believe exactly the same thing as us? You believe that Allah has His word and has a spirit, and both His word and spirit is eternal and of the same essence as Him. So, what's your problem with the Trinity again? The problem is because I don't understand the Quran, I don't understand the Trinity. And I'm taking the Quranic arguments thinking it's applying to the Trinity when it's not. Cool. Cool. Okay. Let's see. What's your angle with Qura? My angle is the Quran talks about the mother city. What is the mother city? Without using your Islamic indoctrination, what is the mother city? That's all. Okay. When did Islam demote Isa and promote Muhammad? Um, Truth be told, it was there in early, like even within inside of the Umayyad period, it was there. But I would say definitely after, definitely, let's say from again, I'd say from like the 8th to 9th century. Yeah, 8th to 9th century. That's when it really started to be that way inclined. Yeah, 8th to 9th century. Because before then it was clear Christianity. Before then, yeah. So about 8th to 9th century, that's when they started to demote Isa. Um, Yo, Cal, just said you're not sure on the mother of the city. Okay. Okay. Yeah, they are being called the original Arabs, but nobody first think of Arabs black unless educated. There are tons of black Arabs in Africa and Arabia, yes, but mainstream thanks though for the answer. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and again, yeah, there is Arabs in um yeah, there's Arabs. There's Sudanese Arabs. There is Somalian Arabs. There's Eritrean Arabs. Yeah, there is. So yeah, big up for you for that. Okay. You kind of did you hear what I just said? No, I didn't. Um, I told you. I've already said it. Marib. Marib is the mother of cities. Okay, cool. So, family, I think it's time for bed. Yeah, it's 10:30. It's 10:30, mate. early start on that. So, family tree, is there anything that you guys would like to say before I actually no, I'll do you one better. Let me get you guys on if you would like to come on for the next like 5 minutes or so before I go. What do we call the religion from 6th to 8th century then? We call it Christianity. I would call it Christianity. I think early Christians clearly saw that it was Christianity, but they saw it as a heretical form of Christianity, mind you. Okay. Um, I would say that from the time of Muawiyah onwards, definitely Abdul Malik, um, it started to change. It started to change. And definitely by the Abbasid period, 750, it was 100% heretical. Okay. 100% heretical. The religion, the community, the people, the believers, the practitioners, it was a heretical form of Christianity. In its infancy, in its birth, of when it truly started, it was not heretical Christianity. It was pure Orthodox Christianity. Okay. It's just that later rulers, you have like a whole bunch of different people with different ideologies, Jews and others, um, and heretical Christians that just took over and just changed things around. But in its infancy, it was Christianity. Then it became heretical Christianity, and then it became its own religion. Definitely by the 9th century, it became its own religion known as Islam. Basically, you just said it there. Yeah, there is no Islam until Hadiths and 8th century. Basically that. Okay, agree. I don't know how you say Muhammad was the Italian saint, though. I agree with everything else you're saying. Okay, so the reason why I say it, let me just s- see if you can catch on to it. Okay. Ooh. Share screen. Okay. The reason I say it is because we have over here, within inside of the Greek records, um, a archbishop that was sent and given to Abraha. That's his religious figure. We find in the Arabian records that Abraha had a religious figure, but he's called Muhammad. We triangulate, right? So that's one, two. And then we have a third one that talks about this particular priest that was consecrated and became an archbishop. All three of them are telling um, the same story, telling, talking about the same event, but it's each recorded in different ways, right? Now, the reason why you're calling him an Italian bishop is because you are reading the name Gregentius and so forth. But if you actually pick up this book, Life and Works of Saint Gregentius by Berger, 900 pages long read, to be honest with you, but it's a critical edition and it breaks it down to show you that, for example, Gregentius uh, is actually not a real name. Okay. Greg and Agentios or something. Georgius, it's made up of Georgius and Agrentius area, I believe. It might be Italy, as you just claimed, right? It's not real. It's just they've made it up, right? They've made up that name, and the scholars have said it's made up. It's not actually real. But the question is though, why? This is why I always say, like, let's get to the deeper point. Why was the name made up? You've just decided to write at least about 400 pages. Yeah. This is a big undertaking, big amount of research that you had to do. But why did you write about an archbishop that you didn't know the name of? Or you did know the name of the archbishop, but you had to be very careful in order to conceal the name of the archbishop. And if you had to conceal the name of the archbishop, what environment were you in that this information would be so provocative that you had to conceal the name of the archbishop. Oh, this was in, I don't know, the Abbasid period where the Arab Muslims were ruling. And it would be very much so revealing and salacious if you actually put the name of this person that was Abraha's bishop as Muhammad. It would have been crazy, right? Because guess what? People would have start clocking on what you're talking about. Because just like other Christians were saying, hold on, Muhammad, Muhammad was a Christian. Muhammad taught what we taught. This is our teachings. What are you talking about? The Quran is our teachings. The problem is the followers don't understand it, right? So you have to really understand like what was going on here. But hold on, this is just after books like the Sirah was just written. You know, Tabari was now promoting the history and so forth. These people, the Orthodox Christians, were writing a counter narrative to let the people know who were still to know. This is my speculation, by the way, my speculation. Yeah, I'm saying they're writing a counter narrative to be like, listen, this is what really happened in the 6th century. It was Abraham, it was his archbishop that was the prophet, was the apostle, that had his cathedral, that built churches throughout Arabia and did all these great works. The Johnny come lately have now created another narrative to what's the word? When you take something, you rip it, you steal it, you twist it around, and you throw it back at somebody. Yeah, yeah. What's that word? What do they people say again? What do people say? I can't remember the word. It'll come to me anyway. So yeah, that's what happened right there. Um, All right. So we have Matthew and a can up in the building. So let me get a can on, and then afterwards Matthew. But then I'm going. Okay. So don't be long winded. Talk to me, a can. You've been placed in.
Yes, yes, yes. Peace to the panel. Peace to
Sorry.
man.
Mhm.
So yeah, man, cool. I wanted to ask you, well, it's a kind of a continuation, but just for the public in it, so they all know there's different sides of this.
Mhm.
So cool. Surah Baruch, chapter, so the audience knows what's going on. Surah 85, verse 4
Does this have to
to
do with anything that was presented today?
yeah, technically to do with Abraham
Okay.
and
Okay.
Ethiopians, correct?
Okay.
Yeah. So cool. So condemned are the makers of the ditch, the fire pit filled with fuel, when they sat around it, watching what they had done to the believers, who they resented for no reason other than belief in Allah, the Almighty, the Praiseworthy, to whom belongs the kingdom of the heavens and the earth, and all is a witness over all things. Those who persecute the believing men and women and then do not repent will certainly suffer the punishment of hell and the torment of the burning. That's what it says. So cool. Surely those who believe and do good will have gardens underneath which rivers flow. That is the greatest triumph. So cool. So from 4 to 11, let's start with 4. When it says the makers of the ditch, who's the makers of the ditch?
You tell me.
So
You tell me.
now I'm asking you,
I don't know.
um,
You tell me.
are you familiar with Surah Baruch?
Yep.
So I'm suggesting you do know who the makers of the ditch are.
No, I'm telling you, I don't. I can tell you what tafsirs, writers have said, what scholars have spoken on, but they all say this cannot be, this hasn't been confirmed. But I would do, if that's what you want me to talk about, I will do. So, for context, for those of you lot don't know, Surah Buruj, I think it's called the people of the ditch. If I can get
In
you
the
mute your mic,
past, oh sorry,
if I can get you mute your mic as I'm talking,
yeah, go. I'll mute.
so
Go.
because there's some feedback. Okay, so they basically state that this individual, this chapter is discussing the people of the ditch, and they've related that the people of the ditch were the people of Najran or somewhere in Arabia that was burnt alive because Dhul was the one, the Jewish guy, burned them alive, and that's what the Quran is talking about.
Cool.
Cool.
So, in the past, have you previously identified who the people of the ditch are in your past life before today? Have you ever
Maybe
identified who the people of the ditch are?
maybe I would have parroted off the tafsirs to say this is who the people of the ditch was. But in my current incarnation, you want to say in my current incarnation, I would never say that I know. It's just that it's been stated.
Okay, fair play. So the believers within this verse, can we both agree that's talking about the Christians?
No, I would say that I don't mind saying it, right? I don't mind saying it, but I can't prove that. No.
So who's Surah Buruj about?
So I'm
From
going to
4
speak.
to 10,
I'm going to speak on it
from
from
11.
a. What can I say? I'm going to speak on it from a Islamic understanding. Okay, so we're going to
No, don't,
separate.
because you're technically parroting off your previous.
Yeah, well, that's
Like,
all I can say. We
no,
haven't
don't
come to.
parrot off it. Don't parrot off it right now. So we're
So
going by the historical Muhammad and the bishop, that Bishop Muhammad. How are we gonna critically understand this verse? Because you can clearly demonstrate other verses and link them to Christ and the birth, virgin birth, all these things. Fine. So this verse here, what are we gonna do with it? You know what I'm saying?
I don't know. I can. We could, if you want to say it, we can do whatever you want to do. But I'm going to tell you that we just don't know. We do
So
not.
cool. So this is just one example. So if I was to demonstrate another example and you don't know, is it safe
Okay.
to say
No, you know what?
that
No,
you
I
only
want to
know
play.
regarding like Jesus and the only
Can I play? Can I play in your field?
connections? Wait, hold on, wait. The only connections you could make is via the Jesus, the Trinity thing. Other than these subjects, you can't go out of the text and explain what's going on. Is it safe to say?
Okay. So I will say this to you, right? The fact is, in history, there is very little that we can prove definitively. Okay. You can't prove to me, for example, that the people of the ditch is definitely talking about the people referring to in the early 6th
It's
century.
according to scholars, that's what they say, bro. Islamic and non-Islamic, bro. It's talking about
No,
that
no,
time and
non-Islamic
period, bro.
scholars who's worth any salt wouldn't say that.
They
Okay,
do,
because
bro.
they will talk about the fact that we don't really see any historical
But
information
that's
for.
what they will say. That's what the text is talking about. Regardless if
Okay,
they don't
I'm
see
going to agree
nothing,
with you. So for
they
for
will say that's what the text is talking about.
for
Correct?
today, yeah, I'm going to agree with you because I love where you're
It's
going with
not
this.
for today. That is what's going on.
No,
You have to
no,
agree.
no.
Obviously,
So
you're gonna say for
what's the
today
point?
for the audience, but that's what's going on. But go on.
All right, so what's the point you're trying
So
to make?
you've agreed. Go on. Let's go.
So what's the point you're trying to make? Go on.
So cool. So we've agreed that the verse is talking about the Christians of South Arabia, the Ethiopians, the people of Caleb, that the normal narrative. Yeah. So fine, cool. So we agree to that. So now when we go to Surah Fil, yeah, the people of the elephant, if we read from the beginning, so let me go into it and read it for
What
the
was
public.
what was your point again? Yeah, to do with the
My
people.
point is that the Quran's against the people of the elephant. That is the people of Abraham. So how on this blessed God's green earth could he be the author, or like, do you get what I'm saying? We've gone through this, but I just want the public to understand and for them to think, because it's not just one way. Your view is so shaky that only someone that is obviously Islamophobe or who don't really like Islam, they're gonna believe everything you say. You say jump how high, they're gonna jump, like they're gonna ask how high without investigating what's really going on. Like a person that's not Muslim and Christian and doesn't agree with what you're saying, they are a proper unbiased person, like, because your thing is so shaking. But that's for the public to do. You get it? I just want them to know, yo, listen, Callum can't answer everything. You know what I'm saying? Basic, the bit like 1+1=2. You know what I'm saying? You have to agree, and you can't agree that the elephant has anything to do with Ethiopia, because it crushes your whole argument.
Perfect.
And
Okay, so
once
I'm gonna go.
anyone agrees to that, like
Okay,
anything else, he was this, he was that,
all right. So let's.
Homorite, blah blah, it's just all music to the ears, really.
All right, so we need to mute you out because you're just talking too much, right? So I love this now, yeah. So this is why I chose to actually agree with you, because you're saying that the Quran is talking about the people of the ditch, right? And let's see if we can do that right now. Let's see if we can just bring that up. Okay, let's see if we can bring up some history for you. Do 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 do. Okay, so the people of the ditch were Muslims. So it says here, they were asking them to deny that Jesus, the son of Mary, whom you say is Christ, etc. Right? I'm going to skip down to here. And they said to him, everyone, God forbid that we should deny our Lord and our God, Jesus Christ, for he is God and the maker of all things, and he has saved us from eternal death. And God forbid that we should spit on his cross, or that we should treat it with contempt, for by it he has prepared for us redemption from all error. So, as you said, these people were believers and they were Muslims, right?
So I want you to rewind this video. Did you hear me say they're Muslims?
What does the Quran call them?
Did you hear me call them Muslims?
Quran
Please don't
call
be putting words in people's mouth. I'm very, very, I'm proper listening to you, so don't be
Okay.
putting,
What does
you know what I
what
mean?
does the Quran call them?
Beg your pardon?
What does the Quran call them?
What, in Surah 85?
Yeah.
The believers. I never
Okay.
said Muslims. You, you,
Okay.
you, you're the one. You're the one that's run to Islamic works, the tafsir. You're parroting. I'm actually thinking of another way. You're going that way. I don't know why you're running that way. We're talking critical thinking. Leave Islamic. I don't know why you're using Islamic tafsirs. Like, forget that, bro. So let's go into the inscription. CIH
Oh,
541. Correct.
no. Let's stop for 1 minute, right?
What do you
You
mean
are the
stop
one.
for 1 minute? Where you going? Where
You
you
are the one.
going?
I'm gonna have to mute you, right? Because you're just talking. You are the
Bro,
one that said
bro,
these individuals
this
were
running is
Christian.
crazy.
Okay. You are the one that said these individuals were Christians who were the people of the ditch that were burnt in Arabia, right? This is you.
Yeah,
And I'm saying that information
yeah.
comes from the Tafsirs.
No. Wait, stop. Um, controlling the narrative. We're not doing that. Listen, put that tafsir to. We're not parroting. Correct.
Bro,
I'm
where does that
asking you,
information
Callum.
come from? Where does it
Beg your
come
pardon.
from? Where does it come from? How did you get to that knowledge?
Listen. I get to that knowledge via what I already know. But we're not.
Which is,
I know what I mean. Look. Can it be
it
attested
comes from
for?
the
This is the
Tafsirs. That's the
question.
only place you get
Can
that
it be
information from.
attested for? Can it be attested for? Yes or no?
No, you're
What
getting
do
it
you
from
mean?
the
So let's go
tafsirs.
into inscriptions and let's see what was going on in that period in Najran. Let's go.
So you're gonna find that people were burnt alive in ditches, yeah,
What was
in
Dun
inscriptions.
Nuwas doing in Najran? What was he
In
doing?
inscriptions,
Yes,
bro.
what do we find him doing? Was he taking
I'm
over
gonna
that place?
I'm gonna stop you there, right? Because again, the only way you can come to that conclusion, right, is
Bro,
based on tafsir,
Callum,
right?
I just want a simple yes.
Nah, I don't have time for that, man. I really don't. Anyways, Matthew, talk to me, guy.
Peace, peace.
Mhm. Peace,
What's
King.
up? Yeah, I'll be
Peace.
brief. Um, so the Christian element to the background of the emergence of the Quran, I feel like, you know, the Najran community, which is one of the theories of who Surah al-Buruj is talking about, or the Ashab al-Ukhdud, the people of the ditch who were burned alive, those believers. I agree with you, and I understand why you're not, you know, jumping to say yes, they were Christians. It's very interesting that when you look at the verses about Jesus and his followers in the Quran, it frames them as Muslims. It says, "We are Muslim." It says, "Washhad bi anna Muslimun," and bear witness that we are Muslims when talking about Jesus. I did a little deep dive, and it's interesting also that in that period of time, Christians did refer to themselves with the Aslama word to define their religion. They would say, "We are those who Taslim." In Islam, what is explicitly Quranic language, they would Islam their faith or submit their faith to God in Jesus. So, um, I don't know if I should respond to what the brother was saying, but the the context of the Quran to me seems to be explicitly this type of preaching to people who are rejecting Jesus, and you can tell that they were Jews maybe by linking it with the persecution that was happening to that community in Najran, those Christians, because is the Quran speaking to that was persecuting those believers? The people that are persecuting them, you mentioned it's the Jews led by the king Dhu Nawas, and that kind of is, you know, if it's a religion that isn't Jesus centered, then why are they persecuting these Christians? Ask yourself that. I'm trying to keep it brief and we'll talk later, but another thing with the tritheism that was prevalent in that era, I was looking into that because a lot of the Quranic, you know, don't say three. People conflate that with don't ascribe God to the Trinity, but then there are those who say don't ascribe three as in tritheism. So I did a little dive into how prevalent tritheism was in Arabia, in that area at that time, and that was basically the pinnacle of the struggle against tritheism right around that time, the time when the Quran emerged. So the Quran rejecting tritheism and calling tritheist Christians associators or mushrikun, that tracks perfectly. The fact that these Orthodox Christians were fighting again, or I wouldn't say Orthodox, but these Christians were fighting against Christian heresies that were extremely dominant in that area. So, yeah, I don't know if you want to comment on that a little bit. I
Yeah,
can.
no, you're right. You're right. They were heavily doing that. Let me just quickly get, because I want to make sure I get everybody to have their say because I need to go soon.
Doing a mute.
Yeah. No, it's cool. It's cool. Stay there. Gabriel, What are you telling me, my guy?
Yeah, how's it going? I'm good. Yeah, I'm the one who asked the question about the. I mean, how are you? Sorry, a bit rude.
No, it's good. It's good.
Yeah, I'm the one who asked the question about the Italian bishop.
Mhm.
So two things from what I've seen is that, um, so in the bios, so you're saying that his whole Italian origin story or the Balkan origin story, that's like cap, basically.
Basically, basically. If you, I don't know if you've read it. If you read the book, or the critical edition, they will tell you themselves that this is doesn't seem to have any legitimacy to it. I think it's mainly BIOS number 9 is where it truly picks up to becoming authentic. You with me, Gabriel? Are you there?
Hello. Yeah, sorry, just having
Yeah,
some mic issues.
yeah,
So yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me? Yeah, sorry, just having some mic issues.
I can hear you.
So yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me? Yeah, sorry, just having some
I
mic
think you're listening to it via YouTube, which is creating and delaying echo.
I think you're listening to it via YouTube, which is creating delay.
Okay, so let me keep it hot stepping. If anybody else would like to come on in real quickly before I go, because it's late over here. It's like minutes to 11, and I need to get my beauty sleep. Okay, so family tree. The good brother Akan brought up something which we love. Okay, let's see if I can just share the screen. Okay, this is like another good talking point. Okay, so he brought up the chapter to do with Al Buruj. Okay, and it talks about woe to the maker of the pit, fire supplied with abundantly with fuel. Sorry, with fuel. Behold, they sat over against the fire, and they witnessed all they were doing against the believers. And they ill treated them for no other reason than that they believed in Allah, exalted in power, worthy of all praise, Him to whom belongs the dominion of the heavens and the earth, and Allah is witness to all things. Those who persecute the believers, men and women, and do not turn in repentance will have the penalty of hell. They will have the penalty of the burning fire. Now, inside of Islamic traditions, with inside of the Islamic traditions and narratives, I believe if we go, it talks somewhere. It could have been with Yusuf, or it could have been with some other king that wanted to do magic and stuff like that, and a monk was there, etc., etc., etc. Like, we don't know. Like, we literally do not know. Okay, it could be, not to say that it's wrong or it's right. It's just that we do not know. There's not enough context to truly know whether this happened or not. Scholars are in debate or have conversations on this to say that we cannot say for certain. So I myself, once I've read that, I've kind of hung back from saying that, because there's nothing to verify it. Okay. Scholars have also talked about there is nothing contemporary. The only thing that seems to be contemporary, even, which seems to be an anomaly, is the chapter to do with the Romans. Right. Again, if you read it another way, it doesn't have that contemporary notion to it also. So it's like, we have to be very careful in jumping to these conclusions. And that's why, before I talk on anything, I like to do my literature review. So what does that mean? We've read the Quran, cool. We don't get that impression straight away reading the Quran. My mind doesn't go straight over to the people that were being burnt alive, It doesn't go there straight away. Like, you can read that in so many ways that it doesn't go there. Cool. Where do we get that from? We have to go to the tafsirs. Okay, the tafsirs speak on the history of Arabia, and they've linked these two events together. So it's like, okay, cool. That's what they have done. They've linked the two together. Now, question: can the tafsir writers be trusted in the rest of the narratives inside of the Quran? Do they get things wrong? Way wrong. Of course they do. So, am I simply going to be blind following the tafsir writers to be like, this is to do with the people that were being burnt from such and such? No, no. Let's read it again. Woe to the makers of the pit. Okay. Fire supplied with fuel. Behold, they sat over against the fire. Okay, cool. And they witnessed that all that they were doing against the believers. So these people were sitting around a pit of fire and they were witnessing what they were doing against the believers. Okay. And they ill-treated them for no other reason than they believed in Allah. Okay, cool. So these people were being ill-treated. Does it say that they were being burnt alive? I don't know. Like, it's like there's so much that you have to just now read into it. So it's like, okay, I don't know. It could be. It is possible. It's possible and it is plausible. Why is it possible and it is plausible? Because there is something in history where this, believers were being killed. Believers were being persecuted. But what were they being persecuted for? Something that was very precise, that the Quran seems to reject, apparently reject. So calling them believers doesn't seem to fit this narrative. What do I mean by that? The believers in the Arabian context were asked, didn't deny Jesus, the son of Mary, whom ye say is Christ, for he is mortal man as everyone, and will not benefit you in anything, just as he did not benefit your husbands, and spit on his cross, and become Jews with us, and live and do not die. So may ye go into peace to your houses, and they will not fail amongst the freeborn men who will be husbands to you. And then some bits missingly. Okay. And they said to him, everyone, God forbid that we should deny our Lord and our God, Jesus Christ, for he is God and the maker of all things, and he has saved us from eternal death. And God forbid that we should spit on his cross. Okay. So this was to do with the Christology of Jesus Christ. Okay. That he was Lord, he was God. Now, Muslims, would you say that a believer is a person that calls Jesus God? I know you Muslims, you would say no. I'm not even going to say that the Quran would say no to that, but as Muslims, you would say no. So, are you right and Allah is wrong? Or is Allah right and you wrong? Or are you both wrong? Like, what is it? Let me know. You let me know what it is, right? Because this is the historical records here of the people who were being burnt alive by the Jews. Like, this is the historical record. Is that the record to do with what's inside of the Quran? And if it is, we now have to start thinking and re-looking at the Quran, because that means in the Quran, Jesus is God and Jesus is the Son of God. This was the contention that was taking place amongst the Christians and the Jews. Whether Jesus was the Son of God and whether he was God or not. Anyways, family tree, it's been an absolute pleasure. Matthew, we're going to catch up. But as you know, it's late over here and we shall talk. Yeah, we shall definitely talk. Family tree, peace and love, and I'll catch you guys all on another one. Man, young Cali, baby, yeah.